Does anyone have a ruler that has inches and centimeters on the same one? Check out what kind of ruler you have. Does it have inches and centimeters? Because sometimes you get a ruler that only has centimeters, and sometimes you get a ruler that only has inches, but you have both. Okay? Now, if you have both, try to look on there and match it up. How much in centimeters is 1 inch? So I would go here, I'd look from 12 to 11 is like 2 and almost looks like a little bit more than 2.5. And if you look on your formula sheet, that is the exact conversion. 1 inch is exactly 2.54 centimeters. Just to look at it? You don't. It was just to see if you're looking on here that this is 1 inch on the ruler, and if you look at comparatively, it's about 2.5. Now, on your formula sheet, there are a number of different exchanges, and you have this chart in your notes as well. This symbol is an estimate, means approximately. Sometimes in math they have a dot over the equal sign. You'll see sometimes in math they bend the equal sign a little bit to say approximate. We should use that symbol every time we round something, because every time we round something we make our answer a little bit off, and then it's an approximation. Yes? Yes, and that's another one. Sometimes it's like that, or sometimes I've seen, like, there's just one. That is, yeah, that's used for something a little bit different. There's so many symbols. But yeah, if you had that as well, means approximately. So it's an estimate. Some of them are exact. So if you used 1 inch was 2.5, that's an approximation. Okay? It is better, and you'll see it on your formula sheet. And I think, do I have on your formula sheet beside all the ones that are exact, do I write the word exact? Yes. Not on here, but on your actual formula sheet. So they have, we can write these ones in that are on your formula sheet. .44 centimeters is exact. So when we're doing our conversions, if we need to be very precise, then we should always use one of the ones that's exact. If we don't need to be precise, just get a ballpark idea, pretty close, we can use any one of these approximations. Depending on which approximation you use, you will get different answers. Okay? Just like when we did our conversions, right? When we did the money conversions, if you used one or used the other one, either multiplied or divide, we got different numbers. They were both right, but they're not the same. Okay? Same thing can happen here. We can sometimes get different numbers depending if we used this one or this one. So those are our exact ones, and we like to use those whenever possible. But sometimes we can't. So here, Canadian football field is approximately 59 meters wide, what is the measurement to the nearest foot? So if we want to convert between meters and feet, we look at our chart and see, is there anything on here that has meters to feet? Yes. We have two different ones. They have 1 meter is equal to 3¼ feet, so I'll write that as 3.25 feet. And they also have 1 foot, put the dot over top to say these are approximations, is 0.3 meters. So just like our currency conversion, depending on which one you looked at, you got different values. And depending on which one we use, we'll get different answers. So, 59 meters, let's use this one first. Some of you will be able to decide, should I multiply or should I divide? If I have meters and I'm changing to feet, should I get more or should I get less? I should get more feet. So if I was using this number and I wanted to get more, I should multiply. Okay? So some of you are going to be very good at doing that. If you like that method, then your answer would look like this. 59 times 3.25 is equal to, take out our calculators, 191.75 feet. It's very important that we include our units with our answer because we need to make sure we know what we're talking about because we're using different measurements. Okay? Now, for some of you, it is hard for your brain to wrap around. Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Should I multiply? Should I divide? I don't know. I'm confused. Then you should go to the fractions method. That always works. You want to find, so the way that you use your fraction method, you want to find something in feet. You know that it has to equal 59 meters. So if these two are equal, that fraction is equal to 1. What also do we know that's equal? We know that 1 meter equals 3.25 feet. We have our feet on the top, so we put our feet on the top here, and our meters on the bottom there. Then algebraically, you want to get the x by itself. So right now the x is divided by 59. We would have to multiply both sides by 59. And then on our right-hand side, we have 3.25 times 59 divided by 1. Type that into your calculator. And you would get the answer that way as well. Let's say you decided to use the other conversion. You need to get more feet than meters. Should you multiply or divide? Well, if you multiply by 0.3, you will get a smaller answer. So in this example, if you were using the shortcut, you would do 59 divided by 0.3. And notice how much of a difference the answer is. So if I take out my answer, 59 divided by 0.3, 59 divided by 0.3, 196.67. That's actually a fairly big difference, right? 5 feet is about this big. That's how much different the answer is because we didn't use an exact value. Okay? So, we have a problem here. You'll find that I like to use the squiggle ones instead of the dot. So when I do an approximation, this one here, I should squiggle it as well, because both of those are approximations. They're not exact answers. Okay? Same thing here. If you didn't know if you should multiply or divide, you could set up the fraction. The fraction setup would be exactly the same. X feet, we know it's 59 meters, but now the fraction that we're using is we know that 1 foot is 0.3 meters. Again, multiply both sides by 59, because that would cancel out here. And now you'd have 1 times 59 divided by 0.3 to get your answer. So the fraction method is kind of nice that it takes out some of the stress. You're like, my brain is too full right now. I don't know if I should multiply or divide. I don't want to think if I'm going to get more or less. I can set up the fraction and the ratio and solve it perfect. Now the question said after we were supposed to get the approximations, we should find an exact answer. So if we want to find an exact answer, we have to actually do some more conversions, because according to our formula sheet, we only have 2 things that are exact answers. We have that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, and we have that 1 yard is equal to 91.44 centimeters. Can you see that either way, you only have centimeters? Okay? What's that? Sorry, did I not read the question correctly? To the nearest foot, you're right. Okay? So if we rounded to the nearest foot, this one would be approximately 192 feet, and this answer would be approximately 197 feet. Yes. And you'll see that one of the things that is important to do for any math question that we do is when we're done, I always go back and read the question again. Because if I didn't read the question again, I would have missed that the question said round to the nearest foot. What does that mean when you do a quiz? If you miss that, you lose a half a mark for not rounding correctly. You don't want to lose a half a mark for not rounding correctly. So it's always very important after you do a question, read it again. Because if I would have read the question again, I would have noticed, oh, they wanted me to round. But the question said approximate first, then the exact value, so I did remember that part. Now I want to find the exact answer. Does it make sense that 59 meters is 5,900 centimeters? How do we do that? Well, we know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So if I had 59 meters, I'd have to multiply by 100, get more of them, and I have 5,900 centimeters. I can now change my centimeters. I'm going to use the inches one. Okay? 5,900 centimeters is how many inches? Should I multiply or should I divide? I should divide, because you need to get, since 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, the number of inches that we have should be less than the number of centimeters. So I go to my calculator, 5,900 divided by 2.54, 2322.83 dot, dot, dot. But it's not asking for the answer in inches. It's asking for the answer in feet. So now I have 2322.83 dot, dot, dot inches, and I need to figure out how many feet that would be. I'm going to have to divide by 12 because I know that there are 12 inches is 1 foot. Do I need more or do I need less? I'm going to need less, so I'm going to divide by 12. $193.569. That would be an exact answer, rounded to the nearest foot. 194 feet, would be the best answer if I was rounding to the nearest foot. Okay? But it's still that is still an approximation as well. But that's the best approximation to the nearest foot, rather than what did we have to begin with? 192 and 197. Does that bother you a little bit, the numbers are off? Okay, right? That's the dangers of whenever we round early, the answers in the end are going to be off. So on your conversion sheet, when they have the little dot, they had to round it to put it on the conversion sheet. And then your answers are going to be a little bit off as a result. I took a university class that looked at rounding errors in a calculator. Your calculator, when you type in a number, you can see they show you certain numbers, but the calculator remembers sometimes another 16 numbers, sometimes another 32 numbers. The calculator remembers a lot of decimal places, but eventually the calculator has to say, enough is enough. I can't remember any more numbers. I'm going to stop here. And so it stops at a certain amount of numbers. And what the university class looked at is there are sometimes you can do calculations on your calculator using your calculator the entire time without ever rounding yourself. And your final answer that shows up on your calculator will have no numbers that are right, which is kind of scary. But for the math that we have to do in all of our high school classes, your calculator will be right to every single decimal place that you see, unless you round early, right? What are some places that we sometimes round? In middle school, when they said pi, they said just use 3.14. Then you're rounding it. So your answer is going to be a little bit off because you've rounded it. On your quizzes, I actually have answers for whether you rounded one way or whether you rounded the other way. And both answers will be right. So if you're getting an approximation, you're allowed to use any conversion that you like. There's got to be a way. Let's turn off. No, figure that out later. Okay. After meeting in Vancouver, BC, Ryan drove 114 kilometers north, and Winona drove 68 miles south. Going north stays in Canada, going south goes to the United States. Who drove further and by how much? Well, we need to compare them. So either we need to change Ryan's kilometers to miles to compare them, or we need to change Winona's miles to kilometers. If we look on our sheet, we have two different conversions. We have, on our sheet, we have 1 kilometer equals 0.6 miles, and we also have 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. And there's the dot over both of those, meaning that both of those are approximations. So in order to compare them, we need to change one of them into the other unit. Okay? And again, there are many answers to this one that are right. I'm just going to show you one of them. Let's say we choose to change 68 miles to kilometers. Okay? Should I have more kilometers or should I have less? Should have more. Why? If you look at this one. If we look at this one, 1 mile is 1.6. Which one is bigger? The kilometers is bigger. So you'll always have more kilometers than you would have miles. Again, if you get confused, or if you're like, I don't know which way it should go, then I would say don't use the shortcut. Let's be certain. How are we going to be certain? I want kilometers, so I'll put x kilometers equal to 68 miles. I use my conversion. I'm going to use the 1.6 kilometers is 1 mile. How do I get the x by itself? I would have to multiply both sides by 68. Then 1.6 times 68 is 108.8 kilometers. Put a dot over that because that is an approximation. So according to this, who drove further? Ryan. You know what's, and if we take 114 minus 108.8, by 5.2 kilometers. You know what's crazy about this question? Is if you did the conversion, I think this one I made, so if you did the conversion the other way, you might get that Winona drove further. No? You didn't? But just 0.4 of a mile. It's pretty close then. Yes. Yeah, you can go to the washroom. Boy, but I couldn't make it. I couldn't make the question so close that depending on which way you did it, you'd say somebody went further. Which, well, 4 miles further with an exact answer. Right, so then if you would get one way give you one person, the other one give you the other, then it would really make you go, I need to find the exact answer to find out what is truly going on here. But in this case, an approximation is accepted, so I might even like to put in here approximately because I know that that's not an exact answer. I've used approximations all the way through, so my answer is a little bit off. So when we're doing questions, when are you allowed to use approximations? When do you have to use exact values? You look in the question, and I will have, if I have the word exact, you have to use one of the ones that's exact. And there's only the two available. So in this one, if it says exact, I would think, okay, maybe I have to use this one. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. But the problem that I start with is Nora is 5'7". It's got feet and inches. So maybe first I need to convert what is 5'7" just in inches. Well, I know that 1 foot is 12 inches. Yes, question. It's going to be 67 because we can take the 5 feet, multiply it by 12 to get 60, add the 7 that was there, and find out that Nora is 67 inches tall. Then we can take the 67 inches and find out how many centimeters. Okay? Should you get more centimeters or should you get less? You should get more, so we're going to multiply 67 times 2.54, 170.18, and I would include all the decimal places because it wants the exact value. So it's a word problem. Word problems, it's good to end with a statement. So we can say that Nora is 170.18 centimeters tall. Do you know how tall you are in centimeters? Some of you do, some of you don't. Why don't you take the time right now? Right? That's the next question. Find out if you know how tall you are in feet and inches, convert it to centimeters. If you know how tall you are in centimeters, find out how tall you are in feet and inches. Either. So we can use there. Find a friend. Find a friend to measure you. If you want to do the inches one, you use this side. If you want to do the centimeters one, you do that side. Very, very accurate measurements happening there. Close enough. Just as a quick way to check if you were approximately right, right? Most people's height at your age are somewhere between 5 feet and 6 feet. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, okay? And in centimeters, that's going to be somewhere in the range of 150 to 180. If your centimeters ends up over 1,000, you did something wrong. Right? If you're not in that close range, 150 to 180, 140 to 180, you did something wrong. 165. That seems reasonable. You can see okay from here? Okay, good. That looks reasonable. That looks okay. Right? If you want to double check when you get home and you've got an Alexa at home, you can say, Alexa, convert 5 feet 3 inches to centimeters. Can you imagine if Alexa had some attitude? You're like, convert 5 feet 3 inches to centimeters. Wow, you are short. Did your parents not feed you when you were little? Or like otherwise, oh, you're tall. Quit eating. This one won't be exact though. You should use this one for exact. Because this is an approximation. So you know that you're 153 centimeters. So then you would take that and divide by 2.54. This one is approximate. So these ones in pink are better, or they're here. No, we're going to get back to the questions pretty soon, though. You're all, yes, then you can feel free to take it out. All right. Everybody able to change? Okay. So hopefully you had enough time to finish that one. Here, again, we look at the question. It says exact. So we need to use the fact that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So first of all, we have 2'9". If you're 2'9", what grade do you think you'd be in? Preschool? Okay, where's? Let's see, 2'9". That tall. Is that's looking like maybe 4-year-old? If that. There we go. Okay. Anyways, first of all, we have to change the 2 feet 9 inches into just inches. 2 feet's going to be 24. 24 plus 9, 33 inches. And then you have your 33 inches. You can now get that exact value in centimeters. Are you going to multiply or are you going to divide? We need more centimeters, so we multiply. 83.82 centimeters. Okay, we want an exact value. We have meters here. There's nothing for meters. So again, I would say I still want to go into and use, I like using this one. It's my favorite one. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So that means I need to change the 8 yards, 2 feet, 8 inches, just into inches. Maybe I first change it to feet and inches, and then finally change it into inches. Does that make sense? Because you could do it in steps. There are 3 feet in a yard. Does it make sense that these 8 yards make 24 feet? Add them to the 2 feet you already have. You have now 26 feet and still 8 inches. There are 12 inches in a foot, so 26 times 12 is 312 plus the 8 gives me 320 inches. Okay, I am going to just show a little bit of my math because later on you might wonder, how did we get these numbers? So I took 8 times 3, because there are 3 feet in a yard, and then added 2 to get the 26. Does that make sense? And then I took the 26 and multiplied it by 12 and added the 8 to get 320. Because 26 feet times by 12, because there's 12 inches in each foot. And now that I have 320, I can change my 320 inches into centimeters exactly. Am I going to multiply or divide by 2.54? Multiply because we need more of them. 812.8. And finally, lots of conversions here. 812.8 centimeters. There are 100 centimeters in a meter. Should I multiply or divide? Divide. And dividing by 100 just moves the decimal place over twice. 8.128 meters. Again, I'm going to show my work underneath here. I did 320 times by 2.54 to get that. And here I did 812.8 divided by 100 to get that. So with that, we get to the homework part, and you can start studying for your quiz on Thursday. So all of this material up to here is what your quiz is going to be on Thursday. Your quiz is just a single sheet, both sides. It's going to have a lot of questions similar to the questions that we had in our notes, okay? Similar to the questions that are in the homework. So if you have some in the notes that you don't understand, you should ask questions. If you're working on the homework and you come across a question you don't understand, you should ask questions. But I'll give you the last 20 minutes to work on those things. So you get to choose. Okay? Look at the answer and see, did they use an exact number or did they approximate? Preference would be, if you have a choice, go exact.